Call the regular council meeting of February the 12th to order. You have in front of you an agenda that's been amended, and I'm going to amend it ever so slightly again, in that what is item number 7A is actually going to be 6F, because we're not actually dealing with the actual bylaw, but in fact authorizing staff to do that work. All right, so I would entertain a motion on that. Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Adey. Any further discussions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. I note, just for the general public, that Councillor Forster is joining us remotely this evening. I'm not quite sure where she is, and that we don't need to know. She's here. That's good. All right. There are no members of the public here to comment on any agenda items, probably something to do with the basketball tournament. Moving on then to the consent agenda. There are a number of items there, some of which I think we can highlight, but I'd entertain a motion to move the consent agenda first. Councillor Randhawa and Councillor Niche. Again, largely for the sake of the public is at home and doesn't, unless they're on their computer, don't have it directly in front of them. Number of reports in here, the minutes of previous council meetings, number of reports, a development activity report, the community planning activity report, the monthly fire rescue report, the report from the Director of Operations Intergovernmental Relations with regards to the major projects, as well as correspondence, letters of support for funding requests for the Museum of Northern BC, North Coast Health Improvement Society, board highlights from the North Coast Regional District meeting, and minutes from the Accessibility Committee are all in there. And before I proceed, the one report I'd actually like to, is Director Pucci on? Director Pucci, your report probably contains some of the issues or items that people are interested in. And I wonder if you might just kind of highlight through the various major projects and their current status.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me fine?
Yep.
Perfect. Just pulling it up. So thank you. So what I wanted to do is just provide an update to the public and council just on where we're at with major projects. And these are our capital projects, major projects, where we're going to have a sort of definitive line between the different ones for capital and major. And we're just coming up with where that line is. So these are mostly all the capital ones. But what I wanted to highlight was just that we are going out to market with a lot of projects right now. We're trying to get it done as early as possible. With the finance department being able to get the budget completed as early as possible, which was amazing, allows us to go and get our RFPs and our procurement out on BC Bid as soon as possible. So just going through the list here, we have the water project. The overland section is already posted on BC Bid, will close in the next couple of weeks. The 6th Avenue Bridge rehabilitation will be posted on BC Bid by the end of the month. The Seal Cove outfall replacement will be posted on BC Bid by the end of the month. We are also doing some temporary repairs on that outfall, as we know there is a current hole in that outfall. The new Public Works building will be on BC Bid very soon, by the end of February as well. Landfill West closure will be on by the end of March. We're having a third-party review completed on the design right now. The new wetland treatment facility, the wetland treatment, that is a very exciting project, and we're working with the consultants to get that out by the end of February. The submarine line is actively being designed, and we're hoping to have that out by the end of the summer. And then all of our equipment purchases have been completed, and we are just waiting for delivery. So what I wanted to outline is that we do have not only a major project that will be happening soon around our water system, distribution system, but we do have between $20 and $30 million worth of capital works that are happening over and above. So we have a very robust program for 2024, and we're excited for it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but maybe just a quick highlight of the accessibility committee minutes, if you don't mind, Manager Stewart.
Sure, that's no problem. So essentially, the Accessibility Committee has been meeting since, I believe, May now of 2023. And we've just been doing some of the initial work to work with the committee on a bit of a strategy and vision for how to proceed with developing an accessibility plan. For those who might not be aware, we are working with the North Coast Regional District, the library, and Port Edward as well on this accessibility plan. So what we've done is we've kind of met with our stakeholders on the committee. They're all community members who either have accessibility challenges themselves or who help to cater to somebody in their life who has those challenges. And we've just been identifying a number of different kind of strategic actions that the city and our partners can take to help overcome accessibility challenges in the community. And so the way that accessibility plans have been set up by the province is, so they are mandated by the province for our organizations to have, and the province also provides a bit of a framework for how to do an accessibility plan. So they break it up by section. They have things like delivery of services, and then you've got, your hard infrastructure assets, communication and technology, transportation, so those types of things. And so right now, we've now sent out the accessibility plan actions to a number of community partners. We're waiting for some feedback on that. And then our next stage from here is to go to public for a more broad engagement. And we're hoping to get a draft of the accessibility plan before our respective governing boards by the fall, if all goes according to plan.
Great. I'm excited by the work the committee's doing. Any other questions or comments from council on anything in the consent agenda? Director Miller, anything else you want to draw attention to? All right. All in favor of the consent receiving? Any opposed? It's carried. We then move on to reports. Report 6A is from the Manager of Communications, Engagement, and Social Development with regards to an application to UBCM with a recommendation that Council support the city's application for funding to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for Emergency Support Services Capacity Funding. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillors Cunningham and Forster, any discussion? Councillor Cunningham.
I see the applications for $4,800. Is that the whole amount for the emergency funding? Because it doesn't seem like very much if you get 2 or 3 fires and you're putting people up in hotels and things like that. I'm just wondering, is this actual for the fund or for?
Yeah, Director Miller, I'm going to go over to Manager Stewart. Manager Stewart.
Sure, so I can clarify with that. In terms of ESS response, when we have a case that comes forward, like a fire, all of those direct costs are billed back to the province once the ESS case number is established. So this grant application is to fund, basically to top up our victim services manager for doing ESS as part of her job capacity. And we started it last year. It was pretty effective. She responds to a lot of those kind of incidents anyways, so it just made sense to kind of roll that into her job but also to make sure she's properly compensated for her time.
Councillor Cunningham.
Yeah, no, it's she's doing it's Joyce Charlton, and she does a fantastic job and goes way above and beyond when she's working.
Perfect. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We move on to item number 6B, report from the Manager of Communications, Engagement, and Social Development, with a recommendation that council support an application from the city to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Recreation Infrastructure Program for $50,800 to support the development of accessible washroom facilities on the second floor of the rec complex. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillors Niche and Councillor Adey, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Report from Planning with regards to development variance permit 2308 at 1946 11th Avenue East, with a recommendation that council approves the development variance permit 2308 for the proposed garage for 11th Avenue East. can I have a motion approving it? Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Skelton Morven. Before you even get a chance to,
I was gonna ask the question.
before you get a chance to, Director Miller, were there any comments received from the public?
Why, thank you. What a surprise. I can confirm that there have been no inquiries and to this application. No comments, no inquiries, nothing.
All right. Any comments or questions from council? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We have a report from planning with regards to development variance permit 2318 for 800 2nd Avenue West. The council approves the development variance permit 2318 for setback and parking variance for 800 2nd Avenue West. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Nish and Councillor Randawa. Director Miller. I'm saving you a step, Councillor Ady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm that there have been no inquiries or comments with respect to this application.
Excellent. Any questions or inquiries from council? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from planning with regards to development variance permit number 2326 for 334 6th Avenue East. Recommendation that council approves the development variance permit 2326 for the setback variance to replace an existing deck at 334 6th Avenue East. A motion to that effect. Councillors Randawa and Ady. Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can again confirm there have been no questions or comments with respect to this application.
Thank you. Any questions or inquiries from council? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. And on to item number 6F, a resolution to amend the 2024 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3526 with a recommendation that council approve the additions to the financial plan outlined in the report and that the 2024 5-year financial plan be amended accordingly. Can I have a motion? Councillors Forrester and Ady. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you very much. Council, we're moved to the roundtable time. This is your opportunity to raise questions or update us on what you're working on. Anyway, at this point in time, any members of council got something they want to speak to? Councillor Ady.
Thank you. A couple of things. One just a short note. The All Native Basketball Tournament is this week. I want to extend my hopes and wishes that it's competitive and enjoyable, and all of the significant aspects of it are fulfilling for the people involved, and that it's a great week. It's a very important week to Prince Rupert, so I wish them all well. I know my own introduction to basketball and First Nations communities happened when I was in Kitkatla in 1983, and the springtime experience of basketball showed me just how important it is. So I've appreciated that ever since.
Yeah, you have another point.
I do. I have another point, a little more extensive. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on some of the community conversations that have been percolating around the provision of healthcare in Prince Rupert, specifically focusing on the hospital and some of the challenges that I think have emerged there and have become the subject of community conversation. And I want to start by identifying them. There's been concerns over potential closures of the emergency room. People, I think, sometimes have concerns around the length of wait times for services. I know that Councillor Cunningham will agree that there have been broader concerns about centralizing services to Terrace and what that might mean for Prince Rupert. And I think, you get into the social media conversation out there. Sometimes those concerns are genuine. Sometimes they're based on a lack of information or incorrect information. But I want to highlight a couple of things and maybe make a suggestion for a role that the city might choose to play moving forward. I want to start by recognizing and acknowledging the extraordinary work and commitment of the professional people who are at the hospital and in the medical community in Prince Rupert for the work they do, sometimes under very difficult circumstances. And I'll just use an anecdote to illustrate that. I had the dubious pleasure once in the last couple of years of having an overnight stay in the emergency ward. And I would describe it as a very poor night's sleep, but it was also a chance to sort of hear just what that situation is all about. And so I was admitted and stayed the night mostly awake. And I know that the doctor that was in charge of my care was there until at least 2 o'clock in the morning, dealing with other things. And then I did manage to get some sleep, and about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, the same doctor came back in, and the first thing he said to me was he apologized for being late. And of course, I knew that he had been up and down and probably back and forth to his house a couple of times that night. And it's just a small anecdote, but the point of it is that the work that is done there is very difficult, and it becomes even more difficult given the emotional intensity of people's circumstances as they experience what goes on there. There have been challenges in terms of staffing, and when staff is short, there's a risk of burnout, and that's what leads to some of the concerns around possible closures. And the other piece of that is that just in the last couple of years, we've seen a need emerging for an actual in-house security service there as well. It didn't used to be that way, and now it's that way. And those are all part of the pressures that people in that environment are working under. So I want to acknowledge that those efforts, although they're largely unseen by people in regular walk of life, they're very important and they're very much appreciated. So the key theme then, and this is where I'm going to tie it to what we might choose to do in terms of support. The key theme I think that comes out of that is a couple of things. One is the challenges of recruitment. We know that people move on, people make choices, and that there are some concerns around how to successfully recruit as many professionals as we need. We're talking about doctors, but we're also talking about support services in the medical system. So the recruitment is one piece, and also public awareness of what the emergency room is for and ways in which the public's choices around that can make that either work better or more be more challenged. So I want to say that obviously healthcare is tremendously complicated, and the issues are complicated. Some of those issues are appropriately internal issues for Northern Health to deal with, and I don't think that we don't have a place there. Although wherever there are issues, I have confidence that the professionals involved are doing what they can to move towards resolutions. Some of the issues do have a connection to the community at large, though, and when we talk about not having access to a family doctor or potential closures in hospital services, that's about human resources, and I think, and therefore recruitment. So I think there's a need to feel confident that the emergency room is staffed. I think there's some conversation around permanent positions attached to the emergency room that would ease some of those pressures, but also recruiting new general practitioners. The more general practitioners we have working in the community, the fewer people need to go to the emergency room, and therefore create some of those pressures that exist there. So recruitment's really important, and anybody who spends time on on Facebook and is directed to the correct algorithm will recognize that Northern Health is trying very energetically on the recruitment front to bring people in, not just to Prince Rupert, but to the north in general, offering training opportunities and what have you. So I applaud those efforts, but I want to point out that the recruitment of medical professionals is in the interests of more than just people directly in the medical system. It's in the interests of industry. It's in the interests of the municipality. It's in the interests of healthcare providers in Northern Health, businesses, First Nations, and the community at large. All have a shared interest in ensuring that recruitment of medical professionals is successful. And municipalities have a connection to issues around that. We're connected to issues related to housing and marketing of the community, and we're painfully aware of the pipe in the middle of the room, the infrastructure that supports that supports a community, and developing the community into a place that people want to live. So I want to end on the point of appreciating the medical professionals in place, and a suggestion that a couple of suggestions, and then I'll kind of ask the mayor to suggest perhaps the path forward on these. I would like the city to consider establishing a dialogue which brings together stakeholders from industry and business and First Nations and the community at large, with a view to supporting efforts to recruit healthcare professionals, to see what we can do to make that work a little bit better, and maybe put out some of those critical emergency fires that we're worried about. And I think also that we support ongoing efforts to provide information to the public regarding what the role of the emergency room is and what alternatives there are available to members of the public who do not have emergency situations but are using the emergency room to get medical services. So there's kind of two twin initiatives there. One a dialogue around recruitment, and another one around what's appropriate for the emergency room. So I'm offering those as two courses of action, but I'm looking for guidance from elsewhere and how we might move forward.
I'm confident some of your fellow councilors will want to chime in, and so my suggestion, my bias towards trying not to craft motions on the fly, putting them in an agenda, people get a chance to think it through and whatever. So I'm wondering whether we don't sort of set this up as a notice of motion, if you will, that comes to the next council meeting as a formal motion. I suspect you're going to have enough support around the table that we could probably start working towards some of the outcomes that might come from that already. We don't have to wait, but yeah, I think that would be a very practical way. Yeah.
That was kind of where I was going. So I would like then to make a notice of motion that we bring some formal wording around that to the table at the next council meeting.
Perfect. And just so that we're clear, well, notice of motion really doesn't need to be seconded or whatever. It is your intention to bring a motion forward, coming forward. Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, I don't even know where to start. I've been working on this stuff for years. I like Councillor Eady, have had first-hand experience with not just the ER, the ICU, the ward beds, medevac to Vancouver, 3 weeks in a hospital down there right at the beginning of COVID. It was quite an interesting experience, but the system worked. And, and I I definitely appreciate everything that happens at PRRH. You know, we have wonderful staff there. The hospital is understaffed. My wife works up there right now. I get firsthand when she comes home. Trust me. But you know, all said and done, they're still doing a wonderful job with the facility they have and the staffing they have. The doctors go above and beyond, working all day at their practices and then going and putting a shift in at ER. And I don't think there's a person that's been in that hospital that doesn't appreciate the doctors and what they do in that. I mimic Councillor Eadie's comments in that. I don't know if anyone's looked at, I think it's North Coast Review lately, but they've got a big whole page that Northern Health has put out about recruitment for Mills Memorial. And I mean, they're going to be concentrating, they've just built a $700 million hospital. Their emphasis on recruitment is going to be there. You know, I'm hoping they're not going to strip any other hospitals, but you know, staff is free to go wherever they want to go. So that being said, I think it's very, very important that we get involved in recruitment and like Councillor Eadie says, all the stakeholders. Growth of our industries in this town will be retarded if we don't have the proper support for those industries. You know, whether it's, you know, housing, 24-hour childcare. There's so many other problems have to be solved to get this. You know, we've had doctors and nurses come here. They didn't stay simply because there was not 24-hour childcare, because they worked some rather unusual shifts. Some of the doctors couldn't find housing. You know, these are some of the things, but I really believe that we as a council have to get involved in recruitment in whatever way we can to either support Northern Health or go it our own and support our doctors to help recruit other doctors, because they're the ones at the pipeline to the medical and things like that. Education of the ER, until we get enough doctor-patient ratio figures in this town, the ER is going to be used as a walk-in clinic because people have nowhere else to go. You know, wait times up there, you know, yeah, they're 3-4 hours, sometimes a little longer. But, you know, compared to some of the other hospitals, you can wait 12, 14 hours. You know, it's still a burden to the hospital because people are using it as a walk-in clinic. And, you know, if a more important case comes in, people are sitting there waiting. It's a triage such thing. And that, so, you know, there is an educational factor to that, but I don't think when a mother wakes up in the middle of the night and their baby has fever and they don't have a family doctor, they're going up to the ER. It's that simple. You know, they don't have any place else to go. And so until we fix some of the basic problems, there is going to be a workload on the ER. And that workload is the doctors. And it's usually at night. And it's a tough one. You know, like the federal government just put $1.2 billion into the healthcare system for infrastructure and things like that. How much of that actually trickles down to dollars in beds and doctors, I don't know, because a lot of it gets caught up in the bureaucracy. That maybe that's something else that has to be streamlined. The provincial government, federal government's just putting another $733 million into senior health care to keep seniors at home and things like that. You know, more in care at home, because it's a lot cheaper to look after somebody in their own house than the hospital. But, you know, the federal government's trying to streamline credification to foreign doctors that are already certified. You know, a doctor's a doctor, a human's a human. You know, like if you've been a doctor in another country for 20 years, I don't see why you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be a doctor in Canada. Yeah, we have a high standard here, but like I say, a doctor's a doctor, bodies are bodies. And that said, it's, you know, I really believe the route that Councillor Eadie wants to go in, I would have been wanting to go is getting all the stakeholders involved. And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's one thing that bridges everything else. Medical, you know, politics aside, everyone needs medical care at one point or another in their life. Excuse me, some of us more than others as we age. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's something that that I don't think it's a political thing. I think it's very easy to get people involved. We've just got to get a hold of these people and contact them, and as a group get together and start helping whoever we have to recruit. But again, recruiting somebody to come here if they've got no place to live or things like that, it's, you know, we've got to solve a lot of other problems. We're slowly solving with housing and things like this, but it's going to take more than just overnight. But you know, right now we've got agency nurses coming in quite a bit. It's very expensive. And they're working side by side with the nurse that's worked here for 15 years and making more money. Things like this, you know, it's a complex situation. And, you know, Northern Health, you know, is Northern Health. I'll leave that. But, you know, there's mistrust on both sides. And I really think we've got to sort of blow through that mistrust and get people working together again. And the grassroots things is exactly what Councillor Reedy is talking about. We can help and support in this council room by bringing in the stakeholders and First Nations and that, and getting them around this table and talking and getting everyone involved in one goal: better medical care for our town.
Great. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be very cautious with my comments because as a healthcare worker, I'm not supposed to dive too deep into this, but there's a few things that I do need to say that I can't not say. I want to thank everyone that have made comments thanking all healthcare workers, not just doctors, because our nurses, our care aides, our lab techs, our housekeeping, every person in that building is needed and necessary to keep things going. It's not one profession or another that's more important than any other. And I think that recruitment is important, but retention is more important. Because if we offer too many nice things to entice people through a carrot to come to our town, we're going to alienate the people that are already working incredibly hard for us every single day. So when we draft that motion, I strongly urge everyone to consider adding retention as the key focus versus recruitment. I would draw everyone's attention a week ago, Kitimat, the District of Kitimat actually went through a report that went through retention and recruitment with some recommendations for Kitimat. It's a public document. It was done in their council meeting, and we might have some ideas from there that we might want to consider looking at. And that's all I'll say about healthcare, so I don't get myself into too much trouble. Wearing too many hats right now. There's lots of work I'm doing. For those of you that don't know, I am a nurse, and I'm actually out of town right now for work related to my normal Monday to Friday 9 to 5 BCNU job. I did also want to make a couple of comments about some amazing community things that are happening that are affiliated and outside of the basketball tournament. Councillor Adey gave a beautiful outline of what's happening. I did want to just add in there the fire that's happening, and a lot of the knowledge seekers and traditional ways that have been brought back into our community. It is something that gives me a lot of pride in our community that we are bringing people together to do this type of work, and I just wanted to lift up the organizers of that for all that they're doing. I also wanted to highlight there's a few different community events. The library's having a book sale. I'm on the library board, and I think it's really great that we are finding opportunities to find new homes for our books instead of them sitting there not getting any good use. And there's a few different craft fairs at the Civic Center and the mall. And so those are great opportunities to get to see local artisans, local craft people, small businesses, and support them. And one last thing before I go too far on health, and I hope I'm not overstepping. Northern Health does have a virtual clinic, so if you need to see a physician for a non-emergency thing, Northern Health has on their website a way that you can access one. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good information. Any other member of council on health or on on anything else? All right. Then I'm going to chime in as well. I agree with you. I applaud the initiative. Both Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Adey. There's, you know, we approached UBCM with an attitude of gratitude. We made sure every one of our conversations began with thank you. Thanks all for all you're doing. And it was important, I think. And I think it was helped people to hear. And we don't often get the chance to say thank you to some of the unsung heroes in our community who are doing great work day in, day out in all kinds of different fields. I'm focusing right now on healthcare, but there are, Councillor Adey, there are teachers, and there are educators, and there are childcare workers, and there are emergency responders, and people that just do great work, and it's not very visible, and I think it would do the community a lot of good if we can find ways to express our gratefulness in a maybe organized and ongoing way. But particularly to healthcare, each of us, I think, can tell stories, and I'm not going to go deep into my stories except to say that I've gone limping into the ER with kidney stones. I've gone in holding a finger up that I'd driven with an air gun and nailed straight through the bone, split the bone in two. We've all gone up there for whatever. More recently, because of issues in our family, it's been cancer care. And I just can't say enough about the whole system. And I really appreciate what Councillor Forster said. I mean, I don't care whether you're up there sweeping the floors or answering the phones or checking people, at admin or whatever you're doing up there. There's no surgery without people cleaning up the surgical ward, right? And it just goes on and on and on. So thank you. I guess if anything you hear tonight and you're a healthcare professional, thank you. We really appreciate what you do. And I think there is a role for the community. There are pieces we want to build an exceptional community that attracts people to Canada's critical Asian gateway. We're 12,000 people taking on a role that cities of millions take on. If we're going to bring people up to this North Coast, we need to be exceptional. We need to be exceptional in education. We need to be exceptional in healthcare. We need to be exceptional in recreation. We need to be exceptional in delivering clean, clear drinking water. Some of those things are within our mandate directly, and some of them are outside of our mandate. But should any one of those pieces fail, we don't get to create that really attractive urban center that draws people in from around the world so that they can fill the jobs and make Canada's gateway work. So we have a role and we have a responsibility. To that end, I want to talk about some of the things that we continue to do. It's been a while since we've talked about it, but I want to make sure public knows we have not forgotten about the application we've got in front of the federal government for funding for pipes at $82 million, which will complete the package that would take the Premier's $65 million, the $45 million we've borrowed, and some of the money that will actually flow to infrastructure from the roundabout, and put together a really significant package that will replace a third of our pipes. We continue to work on that. Just because we're silent on it, and it's just why I realize is we don't talk about it because we keep working on it, and we're waiting to be able to say something positive about it. But I want you to know we continue to work on it. We work on the Resource Benefit Alliance. There are, even once we replace the pipes and we get things caught up, we need to maintain them. And we all know this, that there isn't yet enough money in our budget to do the maintaining of assets. And we're absolutely committed to making sure that we never fall behind again. We get caught up, we never fall behind again. So the Resource Benefit Alliance is, for those that don't know about it, is communities of the 3 regional districts from Vanderhoof over to Haida Gwaii banding together and saying to the province, we need additional revenues. You're making a ton of money off of projects within this area. We need a piece of that because those projects are pounding the living daylights out of our road. They're placing demands on our housing. They're placing demands on other infrastructure. We need some piece of that revenue that you're picking up so that we can do the business of making an incredibly livable, exciting community that allows industry to succeed, which allows more tax revenue to flow back to the province, right? So this is circular. So the Resource Benefit Alliance, I'm one of the co-chairs. There's Mayor Bouyates and Mayor Trell from Terrace and Smithers are the other 2 co-chairs. And I'll be in Victoria next week with those co-chairs in the halls of provincial government, making that case and being in front of them to say, if we're going to be able to do the things that you hope that we're going to do, we need some help to get it done. And it's not asking for a favor, it's just asking to be empowered and enabled to get the job done, to be given the resources, the tools we need to get the job done. We haven't talked about it a great deal, but there is active work going on both the tax cap and the PILT. I don't know where that's going to land, but we continue. Those are active files that we know. We believe, if resolved in our favor, would substantially change again the revenue stream that allows us to develop that community we all need to see developed. And then finally, and there's other pieces, but I just want to make sure that people understand that we're on all of these. Watson Island, there remain tremendous opportunities on Watson Island, and the previous councils that have turned that from a $1 million loss annual, $1 million loss, into a net positive contributor. We saw that in this year's budget. How much of the capital projects were being funded as a result of revenues that flow from Prince Rupert Legacy, which is operating Watson Island. And there are more opportunities to gain more revenue there. And so we continue to work on those. I want to highlight just a couple of things that some have already been, but last night, of course, was the opening ceremonies for the All Native Tournament, and they were brilliant and crowded as always. Director, so you mentioned the Sacred Fire, Councillor Forster. I'll try and say Tlumga Lak, Sacred Fire. I want you to know that city staff were intimately involved in facilitating that. It started off, I say a little bit bumpy in that there was a misunderstanding of what was being asked for and going to take place down there. But we had a really significant meeting in this room with a number of the organizers from the families that are organizing, and with a lot of respect back and forth on what it could look like and what were the needs and how could the city accommodate and still maintain public safety, access in a crowded area, and then on Friday night, Director Pucci and I attended a feast, and the city's work, and I need to acknowledge you, Director Miller. You were front and center on a whole bunch of those files, but there was a high degree of appreciation within that group for the work that the city had done in walking alongside these folks in trying to revive ancient cultural practices. So it was gratifying to be part of, and without going into detail, I'll tell you that Director Impucci and I were invited partially because in the meeting that we had here, almost as a side conversation, the matter of the many polls that we have in Prince Rupert was raised, and they invited us to come and ask for the wisdom of the elders that would be there. You know, how would you have us handle polls? And it wasn't a finished conversation, but there was a lot of really good input that came from traditional knowledge in terms of, with an appreciation, as you know, in the traditional culture, a pole stands until it falls, and where it falls, it lies, and until it disappears back into the earth. And you know, we were able to say, listen, we've got time, but our concern is they're a public. When it comes to that, that's a public safety hazard. You know, and the joke was made within the room by people there saying, yeah, you better hope it's the southeast that's blowing it down at the Civic Center, or that pole's going to fall across the road, and you'll have to leave it there, right, till it rots away. So right, so there was some humor and some appreciation, and it was the beginning of a much more complex conversation about, you know, how do you deal with them? What's the right way? What's the right protocol? How do you replace them? What would that look like? Who needs to be concerned? Anyway, so that was all coming out of that. Some really common sort of community stuff. Sugar Shack took place. It was fabulous. There was a chamber lunch which we attended. There's a chamber business to business at the lease facility where the gymnastics club is. That was good. Lunar New Year for Vietnamese. Sandy and I attended that, and as always, we're really looked after well. And then council, you know, here in this chamber last week, we met with Port Edward for dinner. We had Prince Rupert and Port Edward Council gathered together to talk about some issues that we share in common. It was just a chance to break bread. There was no business done in terms of there were no decisions made, but it was just a chance to see each other in a different environment, and something that I think everybody walking away said, we got to do that more regularly. I attended virtually Southeast Conference this last week. I got to tell you, it's really boring to sit in your office for 3 days attending a conference online. But it's a Southeast Alaska conference is important to us in a number of ways. But my great interest was trying to continue to gauge what the appetite is for reestablishing Alaska ferry service into Prince Rupert and reconnecting us to those communities that we've been so close to in the past, and some of which are culturally important. You know, the Haida or go back and forth, Tsimshian go back and forth, and that loss of that ferry connection is really hurt culturally. And I you know, there is no good news. There's nobody's got a magic wand to solve all of the issues to restoring that service, except that there is an appetite and a hunger from the communities of Southeast to see it restored. I heard a number of mayors talk to that point when they had a chance in front of government, and the Alaska Marine Highway System themselves continue to maintain that as an objective to return service to Prince Rupert. But there are some major hurdles to that, and I won't go into them except to say that the dock here needs a lot of work, and there's some barriers to having it fixed, and there's not a vessel right now that can do that route because it has to be safety of life at sea certified, SOLAS certified, so there's barriers, but there's an interest. Two more things quickly, and Councillor Cunningham and I attended the North Coast Regional District regular meeting as well as 2 budget meetings because that's what they're up to right now. I also sit on it's a very it meets infrequently. It's called Northern Health Connections. So I represent this region, and it's all about the transportation service that Northern Health provides from here to Prince George down to Vancouver up to Fort St. John and all the communities in between, and so we meet 3 times a year our next meeting is likely to be at NCLGA. But there's some interesting work being done. But if people have thoughts and concerns, pass them on to me. And then finally, I've said I'm going to be in Victoria the following next week, but this evening I leave to begin travel to Vancouver to attend a UBCM housing conference for 2 days in Vancouver, and so I will be gone Tuesday, Wednesday, back in the office on Thursday, and I think that's enough, right? Anyone else quickly before I wrap? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Skelton Morgan, Councillors Cunningham, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much.